On side pressure and the cup, okay? What is side pressure? Okay, people talk about side pressure in arm wrestling. What side pressure is to me is its internal rotation, okay? It's this, okay? Right? Going to the side, okay? That machine, if done incorrectly, okay, can train your side pressure. If you train it properly, you can train your press, okay? Side pressure is at the end of any strong arm wrestling movement, right? Even if you're using your bicep, hooked in, you know, at the end of all this drive, you know, comes a little bit of internal rotation, and that's fine, and that's great, and that's a huge part of arm wrestling. It's when you do it, you know, unnecessarily and with poor form that things get really dangerous, okay? You always want to stay close to your arm when you're trying to pin, okay? You want to keep your hip generally in contact with the table for all inside pulling styles, okay? When you are pulling outside, that means into a person's fingers, okay? It's got a bicep root, okay? That means most of the drive is coming from your ability to hammer curl or something like that, and it doesn't really, like I can hammer curl the same way out here as I can here. I can almost do it better here, you know what I mean? So you don't really need that same connection, although you want it, okay? But as soon as I do any kind of inside pulling style, okay, I need to be close, okay? I need it. If I'm out here trying to do any kind of, you know, internal stabilization finish, the danger for the move will go higher and higher and higher the further my elbow is away from my body and the more my elbow is open. If I try to do any kind of inside finish this way, very dangerous. Very dangerous. So always stay connected for inside pulling styles. When I think of my cup, okay, what is the root of the cup? Like, you know how I said for all outside styles, the root is the bicep. For inside pulling styles, the root is the connection of your elbow to your body, right? When you think about what that looks like, you know, you think about doing like bodybuilder gym style, like, you know, rows, okay? You know, an arm wrestling connection, an arm wrestling row, you know, through your wrist, through your cup, through your connection, it is done very similarly, but inside your body, right? Like, as arm wrestlers, one of the first things that I look at when I meet a guy, I'm like, let's check this flexibility, right? Can he put his elbows together? A lot of like the guys who are really strong, really big dudes, they're like, how are you doing that? you know, the guys are all, but you know what, they're losing flexibility, they're gaining in strength. But you know, that's something that you want. You want to be like, you know, able to tuck it right across, right? Because the more you can get tight, right, the more you're pulling to your center. What you can control out here, okay, you can control better here, you can control better here, and it's your body that you can control better than anything. So you always want to bring the match to your center. Bring the match to your body, right? So your cup's root, okay, is to bring the match inside your body, okay? You always want to bring the match close to you. That is the goal of the hook. That is the goal of bending your wrist in like this, to make you get close, bring it close to you, okay? The pin is secondary. The more you can forget about the pin in arm wrestling, I'll tell a story, okay? The first time I pulled John Brzenk, who many of you guys know, yeah, John Brzenk, probably the most legendary arm wrestling that there has been. Fabulous technician, fabulous arm wrestler. 2004, I arm wrestled him, and I walked away from the match, you know, learning a lot of things just by, you know, I think the competition is always going to be your best teacher. So when I pulled him the first match, you know, the teacher was, Devin, you're not very strong, you know, and I knew I just had to get a lot stronger because it looked something like this, you know. But the next match in 2004, he was like, I think he kind of let the hook settle, okay? So we went into the hook and we had a good match on him. Some of you might have seen it. Good match, lasted, you know, almost a minute. And what I did in that match, what John did right and what I did wrong. What I did wrong is I saw the pin line, okay? What John did right is he focused on extension and hand control, okay? The quicker you can forget about the pin line in arm wrestling, the better a technician you'll be. The pin in arm wrestling happens all by itself. You do everything else right, the pin happens. You connect, you extend, and you have good angles, and everything is easy. Everything just happens.